first few things that come to you. Only when you let them go, what is left is the real creativity. So I do believe that as designers, if this is your starting point, you know what, let's do this for fun, but let's move on from that. Alright, so here I am trying to sit with Janvi, who is the creative lead here. But by the time she joined, we already had a project, Mindgrove, where one of the things in the scope was to clean up the logo. And let me show you how the logo looked like. To begin with, just wanted to place it with other microprocessor slash chip slash silicon companies. And it just didn't feel right to me.
Yeah, so the first thing was that I thought the font was completely off from what the brand does, right? And the logo was kind of crowded.
Cleaning up our logo means don't go in entirely new territory, but see if the existing idea can be simplified. So the idea that if you look at it, it looks like a typical cloud icon and some circuitry thing happening here. And we were told that the word Mindgrove is little metaphoric. It comes from mangrove. And just like a mangrove has a bunch of trees, Mindgrove is a bunch of minds coming together to solve a problem. The icons for NVIDIA or even AMD, they are not trying to show a chip or a cloud or anything like that. So in that direction, I came up with 2-3 ideas that, is it about speed of our processors? Now I realize it couldn't have been about speed, because Mindgrove is not really about speed, to be honest, but maybe early on I just forgot about it.
So these were some of the initial explorations that happened.
So alliteration approach, Janvi, is pretty common, like Swiggy starts with an S and like whatever.
Yeah, it's easy to remember. It goes with the name. So a lot of companies take the simplistic approach to logos,
I just feel it's pretty... It's lazy. I think it's a lazy design thinking, which I remember discussing this with Janvi around creativity in Kochi. Then we spoke about the first few things that come to you. Only when you let them go, what is left is the real creativity. So I do believe that as designers, if this is your starting point, what, let's do this for fun, but let's move on from that. And
that starting point becomes very important, because until and unless you will not scrap that out, you will really not get to a point where you...
So for those looking at us, we know the process, and yet once you let these out, sometimes something you drew here gives you an idea about the few other approaches that you would try. So it's still good.
I was fairly new in the company, and I really did not have a very good understanding of the client, and I wanted that. So I think we got on a call with them, like the weekly catch-up call that we had.
Like we knew what the product was, but we didn't know any story around the product. And I think one thing came out is that they kept saying that bunch of minds coming together, and yet Janvi got stuck at this point saying that if I take away M and take away circuit, then what does people coming together mean? Like that's just too broad. And then after about 15 minutes, we thought that instead of mind, when you make it brain, a specific visual comes to everybody's, as anybody watching this video. When I said brain, we have that weird icon that you have seen infinite time. A processor is sort of a brain for a lot of things. At the same time, it also says that bunch of brains coming together. So it looked like a nice sweet spot between staying away from the product and yet being sort of about the product and the mindset of the company itself.
So then I started experimenting around brain, and what happened was that they really liked the idea that it was a detailed brain. But then we got more clarity in terms of how they were thinking of more like a closed design. So then I started iterating again. Then I tried to make a brain out of circuits also, but then it just didn't click. Then we come down to this geometric brain over here. The idea was to make it also look like a little bit like a tick, where I wanted to perpetuate the idea of like how things are verified, like sort of like a verified brand or something which builds trust around it. But it kind of did not turn out that well. It did not look nice, so we just decided to keep it simple after that. And then we came down to the final logo, which is our first slide. Yeah, and then the gradient that I used in the website, it all just synergistically worked out.
So once we realized, it's great that what Janvi, the brain that she drew, is also using lines. That means it's super easy to sort of... It also looks good when you engrave it on a chip. From where we came to what we drew, it's Zameen Asman ka difference. Alright, so glad we had this chat, and hope some of you watching us discuss about how we go about designing logos and making logos benefited from this small chat that we had.